Hello, my name is Elysia Rohn. I'm a senior interpreter here at Prairie. Now, I know that many people who come and visit our historic grounds love watching our cooks and seeing how they create 19th century dishes using 19th century technology. But did you know that many of those recipes that we cook out on the grounds can actually be made in modern kitchens using supplies that you already have at home? So today, I'm going to be teaching you how to make a no-knead bread from start to finish. So if you'd like to start baking, come join us for this video. Hello, my name is Elysia Rohn. I'm a senior interpreter at Prairie. Now, I know a lot of us right now are keeping an eye on our budgets, and a lot of us are also facing shortages at our local stores. So today, I'm going to show you how to make a no-knead bread. This is a recipe that is based on a recipe we actually used at our Hearthside Suppers program this past winter, and it only uses 4 ingredients: water, yeast, salt, and flour. This recipe prices out to about $1.28 for 2 loaves of bread. And the best part is it's very easy to master, even for novice bakers. So let's get started. So for your ingredients, you are going to start with 3 cups of lukewarm water, 1½ tablespoons of salt, and 2½ teaspoons of active dry yeast. That correlates with about 1 packet of the prepackaged dry yeast if you have that. So those can go into your lukewarm water now. And you'll stir those well until the salt and the yeast are both properly incorporated. Delicious. Now, you're going to add your water, salt, and yeast mixture into your flour. So here I have 6½ cups of flour. I used half whole wheat flour and half white flour, but you can use any combination of the 2 you like, whether it's all white flour, all wheat flour, or a mixture of both. You just need 6½ cups. So you're going to take your water mixture, which is starting to bubble up from the yeast, and pour it into your flour. And then you're going to start mixing. So you'll want to mix gently to not make a large mess. This should create kind of a shaggy, sticky dough. As you mix, if you find that your dough is too dry, you can always add more water in. Go ahead and keep mixing. And the nice thing about this one is you can just mix it up with a wooden spoon. You don't need any fancy stand mixers or anything like that. Now I'm going to bring my dough up for you to look at. Might be kind of hard to see, but it's pretty dry still. A lot of extra flour that's not incorporating in. So I'm going to use my sink, add just a little bit more lukewarm water, and keep stirring. And a little bit more water. The nice thing about this dough is that it is very forgiving. So if you mess up and add a little bit too much water and it gets too sticky and wet, you can sprinkle a little more flour in. The same goes if you find your dough is a little bit too dry. Keep adding water bit by bit until you get the dough the consistency that you want. There we are. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more water, but we're almost there. There we are. Oh, you can hear it. It's kind of squelchy and sticky now, which is a good sign. So now, if you look at that dough, it's a lot stickier. You can see that most of the flour from the sides has been incorporated in, which means we're at a good stage. So at this point, you are going to cover your dough. So If you've got a Pyrex bowl like this one, you can use one of the lids that go with that bowl to cover it. You can cover it with plastic wrap, maybe a cloth. You just don't want it to be airtight. So if you are using a lid, don't snap it down all the way. Just go ahead and set it on top. You can leave it out in a nice place, a nice warm place to rise for about 2 hours. After that, you're going to transfer it to your refrigerator and let it rise for the rest of the night. And then we will come to step 2 tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Welcome back. So by now your dough should have had a chance to rise. As you can see, mine has risen quite a bit. It's pretty much doubled in size. So now that your dough has had a chance to rise, it's time to move on to baking. So here's what we do next. To begin, you're going to set your oven to 450 degrees. You can go ahead and set it now so that it has time to preheat while you're working. So now that your oven is preheating, let's talk about the pan you use for baking. Now, if you've ever gotten the chance to come watch us bake bread out in the grounds, you'll notice that when we're cooking on a hearth, we usually use a Dutch oven. So that's a heavy cast iron baking kettle with a lid on it, and we pile coals underneath that kettle and on top of the lid to bake the bread from all over. Unfortunately, like many of you at home, I do not have a hearth in my house that I can cook on, much as I may want that. So we've got to talk about different ways that we can bake our bread. Now, if you have a modern Dutch oven, you can certainly use that in your oven to bake your bread. But if, like me, you don't have a Dutch oven at home, you still have some options available. First, you can use a loaf bread pan, like this one here. This is good if you like nice sandwich-sized slices for your bread. But if you don't have a loaf pan, don't worry. We're also going to talk about how you can form a loaf and bake it on just a plain old baking sheet. Either one that you choose, make sure that your pans are nicely greased because this dough can be a bit sticky and we don't want your bread sticking to your pan. So go ahead and grease your pans and then we'll move on to the next step. Now, once your pans are oiled, you're going to turn your dough out onto a well-floured surface, as you can see I've done here. You can use a cutting board. I personally just clean up my countertop and use the countertop as my dough preparation area. So you're going to take a large knife, like this one here, and divide that dough in half. This will divide it into 2 lumps of dough for you to work with. So go ahead and set one to the side for right now. Redistribute your flour as needed. Now, before I mentioned that this is a no-knead dough. So you're not going to need to knead it like you do traditionally. But what we're going to do is we're going to stretch over the top, stretch it, and tuck it like that, almost like you're tucking it into bed. Then you're going to turn your dough 1/4 of a turn, stretch it, and tuck it, just like you did before. So we're going to continue this 4 times, each time stretching it, tucking it, and turning 1/4 of a turn. This is going to help us form our loaf. Stretch, tuck. All right. So if you've chosen to use a bread pan, at this time, you'll take your loaf. As you can see, it's created a nice, pretty much a loaf shape. And if you set it down into your bread pan and kind of stretch it to fill the space, like so, as it rises, it's going to fill that space a little bit more. And you're going to use that knife you used earlier and give it a nice slash across the top to let it vent as it rises. Now we're going to do the same thing with the other ball of dough we have here. So we're going to stretch it across the top and tuck it. Turn 1/4 turn, stretch, and tuck it in. Turn 1/4 turn, stretch, tuck it in, and then for the last time, 1/4 turn, stretch, and tuck it. Now this is the dough that we're going to go ahead and put on our baking sheet. So I've got that right here. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of form a loaf by hand, since it won't have the shape of the pan to shape it. So it should be nice. You're going to kind of stretch over top to make it nice and smooth on top, while the bottom is kind of bunched up and ugly, but that's okay, because that part is what's going to go on the bottom of the pan, so it'll flatten out as it bakes. So this is what your loaf will look like on your pan. What you're going to do then is take your knife, once again, and slash it across the top. I like to do kind of an X to make a pretty design as it rises. Once your oven is preheated, now it's time to bake. So you are going to put those loaves in the oven. And you will bake them for 30 minutes or until they're done. Once they're finished, we'll take a look at what good, fully baked bread looks like. So, once you've baked your bread for about 30 minutes, go ahead and pull it out of the oven and see what it looks like. As you can see from these loaves here, it should be nice and golden brown. Also, when you flick it, it should kind of have a hollow sound and feel to it. So if it has that kind of hollow feeling to it, that means your bread is probably ready to go. Now, as you can see here, this is the one we baked in the square loaf pan. It's a little more regular in shape and size, so you're going to get more consistently sized slices from it. Perfect for making sandwiches. But we also got a beautiful loaf from the one we baked on the baking sheet. A little more regular in size, but it's still great bread. Gonna make some good sandwiches and some good toast out of it. So, thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully you can make some bread of your own at home.